Sina Grace is somebody who has a lot of baggage is the wrong word, but history. Certainly with Marvel, he did the Iceman book that several people panned, and then there's just a lot of stuff around Sina Grace's Marvel time. When he left Marvel, he started to make a lot of comments about his time at Marvel, and to I think the surprise of a lot of fans, his viewpoint of Marvel was not positive. And I think it really underscored a lot of problems with an editorial and Marvel itself. So I want to talk about that. And also, I think it illustrates that people jump to conclusions about creators and about what they're doing and kind of the comics they're writing and everything else, that when you get more information, you find the picture is not as clear cut as it was. I think Sina Grace has taken a lot of hits that deserve to be definitely spread some other places. So let's go into that. Hey everybody, this is Perch. When I've talked about this in the past, people have accused me as like, "Oh, you're trying to white knight for Sina Grace. You're coming to his defense." No, I think everybody deserves to stand on their own merits. You like their work, you don't like their work. If you didn't like Iceman, the story and the content, and I think there were plenty of problems with the comic, and the biggest one being where it was placed. I think it was launched during a time where it was guaranteed to not be successful based on how Bendis left the character and the marketing they were doing for the title at the time and everything else. It was a bad setup for a book. But, everybody's going to like what they're going to like. So just getting that out of the way kind of right up front, everybody has different taste. The interesting thing, and Sina Grace just did a kind of a new article, a story that he had for a while, but he waited until he got permission from an editor to actually put it out. And it's, there's some aspects of it. So the article begins, if we're going to talk about how Marvel literally does nothing about giving a leg up to marginalized creators and staff members, I've got another story to tell. In my view, the marginalized creators, okay, sure, but I think you could take out the word marginalized and it's still a completely true statement that Marvel literally does nothing about it giving a leg up to any creators and staff members, whether you're, whatever a POC or whatever kind of a gender or sexual preference, whatever whatever is your story. You seem to Marvel's not the place for great promotions and rises and kind of coherent management. That's crystal clear. I think if anything, the diversity aspect of it is it's not a red herring. It's just it's omnipresent at the company. The problems are baked in at a cultural level that go far and wide. But here, I want you to listen to this part of the story because it really sums up how pitches are made and kind of the complete ineptitude, at some cases, of editors and how they're talking to each other and how they're coordinating their books. Sina Grace writes, toward the end of my time there, I've been getting a sense that Marvel editors were lying about keeping me in mind for projects after Iceman, which they were, and the following incident sealed the deal in terms of being told, not in a legally binding way, that I overstayed my welcome at the housing ideas. Sometime in 2018, an editor at a different publishing house asked if I'd pitch an all-ages Spider-Man book, that would be IDW, that they were licensed to produce. Considering I saw C.B. Cebulski have a conniption at a Comic-Con party when another Marvel Comics writer told him he'd been courted to do the same for the Avengers, I asked that editorial make absolutely sure Marvel was cool with me pitching for the product. The editor got approval. I wrote a damn good idea that was on the fast track to becoming the next arc in series. For those who aren't familiar, when you're not a household name, pitching for a legacy character is quite a bit of work. Given my lifelong love of Spider-Man, it wasn't exactly grueling to come up with a handful of ideas and then properly outline one that my editor liked the most, but it's still work. Sure. A pitch, if it's a competent pitch, and I think here's where, this is my comments now, in the comics field, there are pitches that are, that are competent, that are well-researched, well-tracked, that they include things like I've talked about in previous videos around how it's going to be marketed, where the tie-in opportunities are, what the audience is for this book, kind of all these different pieces that good product people or creators should be doing. But I think there's a greater handful of very lazy pitches that are really just almost, fill in the blank because the creator has already been groomed, and I realize that that word has weight, but has already been picked by the editor. They're already kind of lining up their buddy to do something. And so the pitch is perfunctory. It's not, and it shows. They're cheaply done. They don't consider the market. They don't consider kind of any additional revenue opportunities. They're only there to kind of, finish the job. And I've heard of cases where writers have basically given their pitch to the editor over the phone. The editor has then transcribed it for the creator, and that's as much as it's ever gone. At any rate, back to what Sina Grace writes. All that been said, I felt great about the final document, and that I bought myself a few more months being Marvel adjacent so I can continue growing my reputation for being known for my writing chops and rinse off the notion that I was ever anyone's diversity hire. Now, here's me again. I think there's an interesting piece here, because Sina Grace, I talked about before, was kind of I think he was definitely targeted at Marvel when he came on to do Iceman for, quote unquote diversity reasons. It wasn't because in many cases people, some people were, but others were not familiar with his work at all. It was merely a kind of fill in the box, check the box to get somebody on the book that lined up with what they were trying to go for, which in fairness, I think it was unfair to Sina Grace. I think, most people do not like the idea of being hired to something just because of their demographics or what they, where they happen to be. And I think it undermines a bit of the title. I also, from looking at other things Sina Grace has written, I'm pretty confident if I was in Marvel and I was wanting to bring this creator in and I was wanting to have them, be part of my roster, I would not immediately say, let's put the gay writer on the gay Iceman book. I would put them on a different book. And Sina Grace does have the ability to tell stories. I mean, frankly, my issues with Iceman were that it was too stereotypical at times. And I think when I've seen Sina Grace write stuff outside of that zone, it's actually usually quite powerful or quite good. It's a top writer of all time? No, but solid, but good. So it felt like they undermined his work and what he could do by saying, hey, let's just have you fit right into this box. I don't know. I haven't talked to Sina Grace about this certainly, but I just, to me, I've always wondered what he felt about it. Like, would he have rather been put on, I don't know, Spider-Man at the beginning or something else to actually show, hey, I can really handle superheroes and kind of this dynamic of a story, rather than say, hey, look, I got the gay guy writing the gay comic. That's how it was communicated. And by the way, that's not an exaggeration. To the retailers at a Comics Pro, that's what one Marvel guy said directly. Is, this is going to be authentic because we got the gay guy writing a gay comic. I'm like, oh, wow, if somebody recorded this right now, you guys be in trouble. But that's kind of how that's his attitude that pervades. And when we talk about Marvel making this pledge to do better by diversity, that comment still rings in my ears from one of the more senior people in the company. And it's like, I don't think you're going to pull this off well. I think it's going to be another one of these kind of veneer approaches. But anyway, back to Grace and the conclusion to his story. So cut to a few weeks later, my editor tells me that I can't be used for the series. The exact words he relayed from Marvel were, they'd like to keep the focus on Iceman for now. That email came in the day I turned in my last script for Iceman. I reached out to Marvel's talent relations guy, and he got on the phone to explain a completely different reason why I was taken off the book. He said that Marvel only wanted people with experience in all ages because there's a different formatting rules than what goes into a standard comic script. That, by the way, comment, if accurate, this is Sina's story. But let's assume he's telling the truth here. That comic is laughable, painful bad. That Marvel only wanted people with experience in all ages. I mean, just given what they've done, Jesus, what a boneheaded statement there. But anyway, I mentioned that I did an all-ages book for Simon & Schuster, a middle-grade series for Image Comics, short stories for Boom, and edited an all-ages title for Robert Kirkman. The talent relations guy was like, oh, I didn't know all that. He then went on to say Marvel had a list of people they wanted this editor to approach, and as a result, some wires got crossed, and I was out of several months of work. He didn't offer to fix the problem. He didn't offer to throw me in any space filler miniseries, or basically keeping Jonathan Hickman's seat warm. He's talking about the brief X-Men line that was just abysmal prior to Hickman coming on. In response, I told the talent relations guy, do you believe what you're telling me? He didn't have a particularly good answer. I'd like to hear that answer. What was the not particularly good answer? I'd love to know that. But if you're wondering, like, none of the writers who did end up getting hired for these all ages titles had legitimate experience with all ages material. That's why I commented above that statement was absolutely laughable. They're all great writers. Well, I beg to differ there. Some of them are my homies, sure, but it's not like they came for Scholastic or Random House. All of this is to say, I went above and beyond to make sure I was approved to pitch on a product. I worked my butt off, wrote something my editor was incredibly enthusiastic about, and then I magically got unpicked and wasn't offered a reasonable explanation or substitute gig or a kill fee for the work I'd put into the proposal. Thanks, Marvel. This whole debacle was included in a piece I wrote last year, and then he explained. So it is, there's a common thread here. I think, again, and this is where I bring up the point. A lot of, there's plenty of people with very, very hardened opinions on Sina Grace. There's been plenty of roast videos that go after him and all the rest. But take him out of the picture for a moment. Take Sina Grace out and look at kind of this treatment, and you break it down of kind of how editorial works. You got somebody who's interested in writing a comic. He writes a pitch. Now, who knows if it was a good pitch or a bad pitch? Who knows? You can confirm, though, that Sina Grace is correct. He did have all ages experience. He's got and reasonably successful books there as well. And he knows that market certainly a lot better than the other people who have been putting this work out. Much, much better. And I think that, and maybe I'm wrong about some of the above events. I'm speculating on a couple pieces, and that's fine. I would always welcome talking to some of these folks and learning more. But you look at the complete kind of mismanagement and weird little games that go on within editorial. And here I want to state for the record, there's a lot of hardworking editors. There's plenty of editors who are in over their head, who are, way underpaid, as we've talked about, who are not getting mentorship, not getting support from up above. When I say editorial in this instance, I'm really pointing upward. I'm talking, senior editor and that level of management at Marvel, which is often a crap show of just crossed wires, different statements being made to random people for no apparent reason, very poor coordination of what's going on. And in many cases, it's like moving the deck chairs around on that Titanic. And I hate to use that example because immediately people go to Marvel is sinking, and as a mega company who's, number one in the market right now from unit and sales, we'll see what happens after the pandemic. Of course, things are going to change, but not substantially. They're well established. It's not like the entire ship is sinking, but what is true is a lot of the senior management in particular are just kind of moving things around, shuffling stuff. They're not coming up with a coordinated business strategy, and they're not actually steering the company in any coherent direction. They're just kind of, making room for some buddies, making very random, weird decisions. And in the context of all these pledges of we're going to be great for diversity, we're really going to put a spotlight on it, and we're going to make sure it's right, that note from Ike Perlmutter and other parts of the organization. It's just, if that's going to happen, then bluntly, the upper management, mid-upper and upper management at Marvel needs to go. They need to be replaced. If we're looking to bring in some new diversity hires, and not diversity hires in the negative sense, but just we're wanting to diversify the management group, that's where you need to start. Start there. Clean them all out. And you need to start bringing in some people who are competent at running a product portfolio, because Axel Alonso is getting this kind of rebirth of, hey, maybe that guy knew what was going on. I don't think the Axel Alonso world was altogether brilliant and awesome by any stretch of imagination. There's massive problems during that era. This isn't an Axel Alonso versus C.B. Cebulski problem. It's much wider than any of that, and it comes down to forget it for the moment about diversity or books or different creators, different types, and just look at how the line is being run. And look what happens when you do have a creator on house, and in this case, Sina Grace. And your choices are, if you don't like him, you hate his work, you think it's not working out, then be direct, remove the guy, bring in somebody else. If you think that, but at the same time, if you're going to go to the trouble of bringing this person in, getting him established, putting some effort behind him, then don't immediately blow that by ignoring kind of pitches that he's doing or putting him on books that are bad fits, or basically treating him and what he does as a one-trick pony, which is what Marvel did. I don't know if Sina Grace would agree with this, but that's how Marvel positioned him, as a one-trick pony. He could do one thing, and that's like, he can write the gay guy. And that's to the audience, to the market they're trying to curate, that's it. And does he have other skills? Well, he's seen it come out in other books and for other publishers. So either don't bother in the first place bringing him on, or use him for more than kind of the one-dimensional thing that you brought him here for. It's wasteful, and it underlines when you talk about your efforts for diversity, you clearly don't know what you're doing, because you're bringing somebody on saying, hey, we want to increase diversity in our company, so we're going to do that by taking one person, and we're going to limit that one person to one genre of book that directly aligns with that person's demographic. That's all we're going to do. That's the exact opposite of diversity, and it's blowing talent that I think is reasonable. So again, I'm not making this big aggressive argument of like, you need to like Sina Grace. Like him or don't. That's on you, of what you like to consume as a reader. The point here is, as a company, this is a terrible way to manage a line, manage books, and manage people. It's deceptive. It's defeating, because you're just you're taking talent, investing time in them, and then not utilizing them for things. And it's just scummy. I mean, there's a better word for it, but it's just scummy in the end to do this to your talent. You got to imagine, again, let's say you dislike Sina Grace, you don't like him on social media, you don't like his comics. Okay, but this experience he went through, guaranteed, is happening to tons of other people. That's the unhealthy part. You can make it about the one guy, about Grace, but guaranteed this is happening across the board. I mean, aspects of what he's describing have happened to Claremont in recent years. So, I mean, pick who you like, but this behavior is gross and pervasive and is not helpful. Anyway, it's interesting to see these little bits come out. I hope to talk more and learn more, but it's I don't know. You just kind of shake your head. It's a definition of kind of snatching defeat for the jaws of victory, or maybe not even that far. Just wasting time, wasting money, wasting market share. Useless. Anyway, what's your thoughts? Leave a comment below. Let me know your opinions. Would love to get your insight on the matter. Follow me on social media, like, subscribe, all those cool things. Most importantly, thanks for listening.